All right, for more on this, let's now speak to the South African Human Rights Commission Commissioner Philile Ntuli. Thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. South Africans have been left divided in this matter, many in shock, in fact, about the developments in Stilfontein. 246 illegal miners have since been retrieved alive since Monday, as we hear from the police, and 78 bodies have been brought to the surface. That is of concern. Just talk to us, ma'am, about your assessment of the developments in Stilfontein as a Human Rights Commission and your role.
Thank you so much, Unati. Good afternoon to yourself and good afternoon to your viewers. Firstly, as the South African Human Rights Commission, we recognize and acknowledge that currently, as South Africa, we are experiencing a moment of national tragedy as a result of what has happened in Stilfontein. And we therefore wish to convey our message of condolences to those who have lost their loved ones. We also wish to send a message of compassion and empathy to those who are injured as a result of the tragedy that has happened in Stilfontein. You are quite correct to say that this event has left the nation divided. We recognize this division and we are concerned particularly at a leaning of the national discourse towards the idea that this is a criminalized event which is led by foreign undocumented nationals. We would like to dispel this discourse by saying that this is not an issue of foreign nationals, but this is a much bigger issue. It's a complex issue that is multi-layered and that needs to be explored for its multi-layeredness. As the South African Human Rights Commission, firstly, I would like to acknowledge that we have received complaints to the effect, particularly last year, to the effect that the South African Police Service was depriving miners underground, particularly at Shaft 11 in Stilfontein, of necessities such as food and water. And immediately we embarked on an investigation to ascertain the facts with regards to these allegations. As a result of our investigation, we also then instituted a monitoring program which ensured that we were represented on the ground at the site from the time that we received the complaint to date. Our monitoring exercise has then assisted us in keeping abreast with developments on the ground. We have remained quite concerned by the divided discourse, but mainly we are concerned at the silence at the discourse in pointing to the role and responsibility of the mining license holder, who is responsible for the rehabilitation of mine as per the enabling legislation, which is the Mining and Petroleum Resources Development Act. This is a serious concern for us, Unati, and we are exploring the role and the responsibility of the mining company as it pertains to the rehabilitation of the mine.
All right, and I want us to explore, in terms of what then the Human Rights Commission will then do in as far as these stakeholders are concerned. I mean, there have been court cases on this matter where NGOs described government's operation at the mine as human rights abuse. There are now calls that the slow inaction of government and the inaction, in fact, of mine owners be probed, as you rightfully said, that you will also be undertaking that task. The courts have also made it clear the role of government in protecting the right to life of all individuals within our borders, as provided in our constitution. Given that Vala Umgodi is ongoing, your monitoring role would need to, I would imagine, step up. And you would need to, take some form of action to those transgressions if you find any. So just maybe walk us through the next steps as a Human Rights Commission.
What we have identified through our monitoring activities is an urgent need for a platform for the nation, particularly the multiple sectors that are interested in this matter of artisan mining, to come to one platform to discuss, particularly to have a policy dialogue on issues pertaining to artisan mining. You are quite right. The issue is not just a Stilfontein mining issue. It's a national issue. It's an issue that affects us across the country. As the South African Human Rights Commission, one of the more immediate steps that we are planning to take is to call a policy dialogue, to call on civil society, the private sector, government, the media, and communities at large to sit in one platform and to discuss the issue of artisan mining. What are the causes of artisan mining? Who is responsible for rehabilitating mines? What is the role, the fiduciary role of government when it comes to the issue of artisan mining? And should we and do we have a policy that can regulate the practice of artisan mining in South Africa? So that is going to be one of our more immediate steps to take following this tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, there are calls for a commission of inquiry. Is that something that you would then support? Or would you then take a different route to the one that you've just been explaining now? Or would you follow this route of a commission of inquiry? I would imagine some of the things that you've just raised now would then be, brought to the surface.
Absolutely. A policy dialogue assists us to ask some of the more critical questions, conceptual questions that are related to this issue, especially as they pertain to what is the legislation that guides the practice of mining in South Africa? What are the existing policy instruments that regulate the practice of mining in South Africa? Who are the responsible parties? What are they doing? What should they be doing? What are they not doing that they should be doing? These are some of the questions that we are hoping that the policy dialogue is going to assist us to answer. However, as it pertains to calls for a commission of inquiry, one assumes that these calls are particularly in response to what has happened in Stilfontein. Certainly, there are outstanding questions to be asked in Stilfontein. We have seen a tragedy that has happened. People have died. Some of them due to malnutrition, but not all of them. But not only that, Unathi, we have heard through media interviews, teenagers, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, saying that I am a Mozambican youth that was brought to South Africa by my uncle who promised me a job. And upon arriving in South Africa, I was taken underground and I was held against my will. So a commission of inquiry could assist us to ascertain the facts of that submission. Who are the people responsible for holding others against their will to go 2 kilometers underground? Some of those people would have perished as a result of being held against their will. So a commission of inquiry could assist us to unpack some of these questions we also, as a nation, have with regards to what has happened in Stilfontein.
Ma'am, thank you so much for your time. We have run out of it, but I really do appreciate your time. South African Human Rights Commission Commissioner Philile Ntuli there for us.